IVM.
This episode delves into Tamil Nadu politics and more specifically the relationship between late Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha and her political aide V.K. Sasikala. The late Chief Minister Jayalalitha was a force to reckon with, and across her 6 terms as Chief Minister of the state, she implemented numerous initiatives that brought Tamil Nadu back from the brink of economic collapse. Even today, after her unfortunate demise, we remember her constant efforts towards upliftment of mothers and girl children, towards significantly improving infrastructure across the state, towards generous benefits and subsidies for farmers and agriculturalists, towards affordable food and housing, and several other welfare programs. In this episode, we will be speaking about certain alleged activities with regards to her being charged for amassing wealth disproportionate to her income, which includes allegations around conspiracy by V.K. Sasikala. Relevant to this episode is the political climate of Tamil Nadu during this period, which includes those of her mentor, the late former Chief Minister, Dr. M.G. Ramachandran, and prominent leaders of the opposition party at the time, which happened to be the current ruling party of the state. Please note that the leaders must be referred to by their official titles as former Chief Minister Jayalalitha, former Chief Minister M. Karunanidhi, former Chief Minister Dr. M. G. Ramachandran. However, for ease of listening on this platform, we have mentioned only their first names. We emphasize that we, nor IVM, has any political affiliations whatsoever, and everything discussed has been taken from various media sources. All of these sources will be found on our blog along with an outline of this episode. Have you ever wondered why women don't do more crime? Well, we're here to tell you. There's misconduct all the time. Women are thieves and murderers.
That's gross misconduct.
Con artists, money launderers.
Criminal misconduct.
Financial fraud that's hard to track.
Takes some planning, but still misconduct.
Even breaching a contract.
Well, that's more civil though.
It's misconduct. Misconduct. We tell you all about women that suck. Things that make you say, what the? It's misconduct.
Hello, and welcome to Misconduct. We are a podcast about women who talk about other women who may have done some crimes, some not nice things, some unethical things.
And today's episode is the second part of our special on Jalalita and Sasikala. As we mentioned in the last episode, these two women revolutionized Dravidian politics, mostly by segregating their duties perfectly. One of them, the late former Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha, was the leader and head of the party and state. And her word was the law, essentially. The second of the pair, Sasikala, was like the efficient administrative wing that kept the party and household running like a well-oiled machine. And this camaraderie of theirs kind of extended into a slightly different space. It went into amassing and accumulating wealth.
And that's how we landed here. So we'll do a quick recap right after this, but quick heads up, this podcast is not meant for children. Listener discretion is advised. You already know this, guys. Do it.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard our last episode yet, this episode is not going to be as fun. So go back and listen. In our last episode, we spoke about Jayalalitha, 6-time Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, the head of the Athimuka party, one of the most significant and influential regional political parties in India, and the subject of an 18-year-long court battle on allegations that she was involved in the misuse of her office to procure wealth. More specifically, the assets that she held did not match up with the actual known income that she had earned. And the other person we spoke about is Sasikala, Jayalalitha's right-hand woman. So Sasikala was part of everything in Jayalalitha's life, from running the party to her household to her daily schedule. Also, she may have played a part in handling her assets, which led to this case where she was charged with conspiracy to commit crimes related to the misappropriation of wealth.
Yep.
Now, we learned some more things as well. In 1996, Dr. Subramanya Swamy filed a complaint against Jayalalitha on this particular matter. A court in Chennai formally charged the two women for holding assets worth 66.65 crore rupees or 666 million rupees, and which this was found not to match the salaries and incomes that the two women drew. Many witnesses were called, almost 76 of them, and many of them turned hostile, and they refused to testify properly. After multiple investigations, the case was moved to a special court in Bangalore. A special court instituted only for this case due to murmurs that this case was not going to get a fair treatment in Chennai. In 2003, senior advocate B.V. Acharya was appointed as the special prosecutor in this case. And finally, in 2003, fresh trials started.
Yes, but these trials only got over in 2014.
Yes, Raghavi, please elaborate.
I shall. So I actually want to start from 2001. So let's see what happened there. In 2001, the then Chief Minister Jayalalitha was convicted in an entirely different case involving a land deal in Guindy in Chennai. But due to this conviction, she was voted into Chief Minister position again, by the way. She was forced to step down in September 2001. But in 2002, thankfully, the conviction was set aside by a higher court and she was therefore allowed to become Chief Minister again. So this will sort of happen like at least a couple of times, definitely in the case that we're discussing as well. And like the thing is, at this moment, when she was allowed to step back onto the mantle of Chief Minister, that's when there were people across the state that were a little convinced that, the case might not see a fair end. So that's when there were calls to be made to transfer this case, and whether or not they should transfer the case at all, that was heard by the Supreme Court in 2003. In fact, the Supreme Court actually did transfer the case, and when they transferred it, they said, it appears the prosecutor appointed by the AIADMK government is hand in glove with the accused, thereby creating a reasonable apprehension of likelihood of failure of justice in the minds of the public at large. It was also noted that the submissions had raised many justifiable and reasonable apprehensions of miscarriage of justice and likelihood of bias. So they said the Supreme Court needs to interfere. So this is when the court said, okay, let's move the case, let's transfer it to Bangalore. And Bangalore was chosen because it's close enough to Tamil Nadu to not inconvenience the parties, but also it's in a whole other state, where the prime accused is not the chief minister of that state. So maybe they were hoping there's not going to be much bias there. But the Supreme Court said, listen, I don't trust anybody. So let's lay down some directions on how to handle this case. So first thing they said was there has to be a special court that's established specifically for this.
Yes, we spoke about that in part 1 as well.
That's right. The second one, since the matter has been pending since 1997, the proceedings were directed to begin as soon as possible, and they were going to continue without pause day on day till it was resolved. Also, a senior lawyer had to be appointed by the public prosecutor in this case, and his or her fees must be paid by the government of Karnataka.
Wait, what? But this is not even Karnataka's problem. Why are they paying for it?
That's a great question. It gets worse. The public prosecutor can also recall and re-examine witnesses, even if they were hostile in the last round of witness testimonies.
So they're going to do this all over again?
Yes, that's exactly right. Also, if any witnesses need it, the government of Karnataka must provide them protection.
Well, wow.
Yeah, so this case is now, effectively got to the special court in Bangalore. So between 2004 and 2009, more than 180 hearings were held on this matter, and 150 additional hearings were held till the judgment was passed by the special court in 2014. So that is at least 330 hearings in all, with almost 250 prosecution witnesses being examined. Also, just FYI, between the changes in the prosecutor status and the amount of time that this case took, the state of Karnataka spent at least 2 crores or 20 million rupees on just the lawyers.
Oof.
And this doesn't account for the cost of investigation, all the collecting of evidence and documentation, bringing the witnesses together. It doesn't account for any of these things.
Does it account for how long the lights were left on in the courtroom for like 330 hearings?
Well, I doubt it. Oh, God.
So in 2011, after several years of this drama, Jayalalitha appeared before the special court to depose. She had actually avoided it all this while, citing security concerns. In October 2011, she appeared for 2 days before the court and apparently answered each question without hesitation and left the court with a smile on her face. Of course, it might be worth noting her party, the Atimuka, had won the state legislature elections again in Tamil Nadu, making this her 4th term as chief minister. Only 15 people were allowed in the courtroom due to security reasons.
Right.
She answered about 680 questions in all, and her answers to most of them were, I don't know, or I don't have the knowledge.
And she absolutely has the right to do this, by the way. In fact, it might be better for her to just say, I don't know, instead of saying something that can very easily be proven wrong by the prosecution. because the latter could result in her also being prosecuted for perjury. So the thing is, everyone has the right to answer this way in court, and everyone does it. It's not your job as the accused to prove anything.
Yeah.
It goes the other way. So no judgment here. I get it.
If she's saying, I don't know and I don't have the knowledge, well, she's got some tricks up her sleeve, maybe. After the testimony, though, her lawyer told the media that they would like to avoid any further such questioning and would move to the Supreme Court if necessary. The thing is, she actually had moved the Supreme Court for this before. And each time the court said her request was misplaced and she must appear before the special court to testify. So this appearance was a result of the Supreme Court really just putting their foot down. Oh, and one more thing. Jalalita was staying near the HAL airport, which is like a 40-minute drive one way every day.
I mean, it's like 3 hours with Bangalore traffic. So,
Aha, a joke about Bangalore traffic. How original. Will we ever stop making it? Never. Each day, the route had to be sanitized. National Guard commandos were deployed, along with 1,500 police personnel from Tamil Nadu and Karnataka.
Oof.
Another 500 cops from Tamil Nadu constituted her inner security ring. So that's just how that went down. But on a separate note, things were not going too great on the home front. In December 2011, Jayalalitha expelled Sasikala from her home along with 13 other Atimuka workers.
oof.
There were rumors that Sasikala was plotting to work against her. Many of the party officials supported this decision. It was all just very, very dramatic.
I'm sure.
But it was resolved in March 2012 when Sasikala wrote an apology letter. Her apology said that she just wanted to serve the party and had no political ambitions of her own. The letter allegedly said, I only want to remain a loyal sister to Jayalalitha. So it looks like Jayalalitha accepted this and Sasikala was reinstated as a party member. But she was asked to leave back her family and friends who participated in all of this. And Sasikala had no real choice. She just said yes.
Oh, dude, that's kind of really heavy.
Yeah.
Also, I say this all the time, but can you imagine what a good movie this would make? Just,
Yes.
okay, think about it this way. The thing with biopics is they really go on so long. They cover every part of that person's life. But imagine if this was just like a 2-hour movie, like Jayalalitha and Sasikala in a room together, like a bottle episode. There are like 2 older actresses just acting their asses off. And this is about the time that they spent together talking to each other just before Sasikala is led back into the party. And like their early story is shown in like flashbacks and like they're falling out is seen. Dude, this is like Oscar bait stuff, man. If you can make one for Margaret Thatcher, you can make one for Jayalalitha. I think it's
Right?
doable.
Oh, that's fair. In fact, I think Jalalita has said that Margaret Thatcher was one of the people that she looked up to as well. Yeah.
That would actually be really cool. I would legit watch the hell out of this.
Yes, I would think about it. Everyone knows my relationship with movies.
Is non-existent.
Yes, correct. So, okay, back to the case. In 2012, something else happened that was super shocking. The special prosecutor for the case, B.V. Acharya, resigned from his position. He told reporters that he was being pressured by the state government and forces who wanted him off the case. In 2012, he was also holding the position of Advocate General of Karnataka, a post that he was holding for the 5th time since 1989.
Right.
He said, and we quote, the interested parties, having failed to achieve the objective by inducements and threats, initiated several proceedings against me with an oblique motive. Petitions were filed before the High Court and the governor seeking my removal from the post of SPP when I was holding the post of Advocate General. There were also allegations made by those in the government at that time that he was not capable of progressing the case quickly and was not cut out for the job. Other more like insidious allegations were that he should be investigated for financial misdoings himself, none of which were found to have any proof eventually. Mr. Acharya, however, narrated in his resignation letter the lack of progress in the trial is due to obstructionist attitude of defense. He also said that he accepted the role of special prosecutor because he had seen the evidence firsthand and he assumed that the case would be over in a year. But after 8 years behind him, he has to choose his health above everything else.
Dude, if that's not like enough motivation to quit your toxic job, I don't know what is.
Do it for 8 years and then say, I don't know. I feel like this whole story with B.V. Acharya is just It's kind of sad because
Yeah.
imagine being such an accomplished lawyer and then having to deal with all of this. And that too,
Mm,
when you thought that you would leave your career with such a high.
that's true.
Yeah. In February 2013, a senior advocate, G. Bhavani Singh, was appointed as the special public prosecutor in his place.
Mhm.
So he too was initially removed from the position due to various complaints being filed in August 2013.
Mhm.
But eventually, the Supreme Court reinstated him in September 2013. So Bhavani Singh was the special public prosecutor from that point on.
Cool. So let's take a little break here because when we
Yes.
come back, let's finally get into it. The special court's decision. Let's just
Yes.
move on. Let's do it.
Given the unprecedented times our nation is going through, where positive is now a dreaded word, Smile India gets you delightful news from across the country about people and places that continue to spread the much-needed hope and positive vibes. I am Shifa Maitra, and you can hear Smile India with me every Thursday on the IVM app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Oh, and did I tell you Smile India is available in both English and Hindi.
Welcome back, everyone. So before we start off with the special court's decision, we want to run you through all the properties that were listed in the order. So this is the stuff that Jayalalitha said that she had either earned or received from her mother's will. So the stuff that she actually declared as stuff that she owned, So there is the Post Garden house. There is a house in Hyderabad. There's a bunch of land measuring around 20 acres in Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. 3 cars, an HM Contessa, an Ambassador Mark II, and a new Maruti. Shares and investments, not more than like about 1 million rupees. Another 1 million rupees worth of jewelry and cash. And of course, her salary of 1 rupee per month that she received as her pay as chief minister. So all of this was supposed to have a total value of about 2 crores or 20 million rupees.
Now, here is the stuff that the investigators confiscated from her properties. I will list them as per the item number in the annexure to this special court order. Item 1 is a luxury bus. Fair enough.
Sure.
Item 2 to 608 are all just sets of gold and precious stone, jewelry, and gold coins.
Okay.
One of which was a gold bracelet that had 1,323 diamonds set in it.
Okay.
Another was a necklace with 1,090 diamonds in it.
Oh, all right.
And a gold waist belt with 2,389 diamonds, 18 emeralds, and 9 rubies, weighing a total of 1.1 kilograms.
Whoa.
Yeah. The only thing missing here is that one giant ugly necklace that you kept going on about during the Jeanne de Valois episode, the one that brought down the whole French monarchy.
That's true. I mean, I'm glad that's not here. For one, nobody needs to curse Jalalita like that. She is a goddess. More importantly, it's so ugly. That necklace from the Jeanne de Valois episode was phenomenally ugly, okay? And I actually want to call this out. There are multiple people that wrote to us to say that, yes, it was ugly, Ragvi. You are correct. And I said, thanks, guys. This is the validation I wanted. But also, please leave an Apple review. Thanks.
Items 609 to 630 are all properties. Then there's a bunch of investments, chits, keys to bank lockers, etc. And then some 70 odd gold and diamond watches, which included only one HMT watch, by the way.
Yeah, I guess
HMT is rare.
Yeah, that's the takeaway I also had.
There was also many silk saris, several cars, a bunch of photo albums, and a video cassette with her nephew Sudhakaran's wedding video on that.
Okay, sure. So, do you want to know the saddest thing that was confiscated, though?
What?
So, Jayalalitha, she was very fond of attending performances of the late mandolin Srinivas. So, he's this Indian mandolin player, extremely well trained in Carnatic classical music, and of course, he's a composer as well. So, she has spoken very highly about him before, and she even offered some personalized condolences when he passed away and stuff. So she's really into him, okay? Yeah. Anyway, she had once given him a silver plate, a silver kumkum holder, and a silk sari. So that was also seized.
Hey!
Yeah, dude, it literally, okay, the itemized list in the order literally says, a silver plate, etc., recovered from mandolin Srinivas.
No!
Yeah.
They
went to his house.
Name mandolin?
I don't know. They went to his house and they just said, give me it.
Give plate.
Give plate. Exactly. And dude, just let him keep it, man. It's a plate and a sari.
Swear.
Just let him keep it.
There were also some things that were seized but not listed as material items in this judgment, which was 750 pairs of slippers, 500 wine glasses, and a silver sword. Okay, I want it.
Yes,
but also,
agreed.
500 wine glasses, how many people was she entertaining?
At least 500 people.
Yeah, apparently.
So, based off of all of this, and of course, the testimony of all the witnesses, we can kind of guess where the special court went with its decision. The court convicted Jayalalitha for holding assets disproportionate to her known sources of income under Section 13 of the Prevention of Corruption Act. She was sentenced to 4 years simple imprisonment. Sasikala, Sudhakaran and Iravarsi were also convicted, but under Section 120B of the IPC for criminal conspiracy. They were also each sentenced to 4 years simple imprisonment. Also, they were fined. So Sasikala and the other two, they were fined 10 crores or 100 million rupees each.
Okay.
Jayalalitha, however, held the majority of the property. So the thing is also they found her to be the core conspirator among the whole lot. And she also held like the position of public office, right? So she effectively had a bigger responsibility to make sure she treated that post with respect and dignity. But because she didn't do any of those things, her fine was kind of nuts. So if you're paying attention to part 1 of this episode, you remember that the fine that can be imposed under Section 13 of the Prevention of Corruption Act, it has no specific limit.
Yeah, when it comes to the fines, the court have to take into account the actual quantum of the disproportionate assets.
That is exactly right, which is why the fine that was imposed on Jayalalitha was 100 crore rupees or 1 billion rupees.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, the thing is, if these people weren't able to pay the fine, they would be jailed for another whole year.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and oh wait, it gets worse. Don't just assume it ends there. This decision basically means that Jayalalitha can no longer hold the position of an MLA. So she was, and also as chief minister, so she was effectively disqualified.
No, she had to step down again.
Yeah, but not just that. She
Oh, wow.
also
There's more.
couldn't contest in the elections for the next 10 years.
What?
Yeah.
This is in 2014. She was already like 66 years old.
That's correct. So, whoops. So after the decision, Jayalalitha and Sasikala were moved to the Parapana Agrahara Central Jail in Bangalore. Indeed. So the special court's decision was given at 4 p.m. on 27 September 2014, 18 long years after the case was filed. So less than 20 minutes after that, sporadic events of violence and riots were reported all over Tamil Nadu. By 5:30 p.m. that evening, all malls, theaters, schools, colleges, they were all closed down. Marina Beach, by the way, which is literally the country's largest beach, that was also shut down.
Yeah.
Public transport had come to a halt and people just sort of couldn't leave their homes. By 7 p.m. that evening, the Tamil Nadu governor directed local police to ensure law and order. Back in Bangalore, the two women were dealing with some troubles of their own. So they requested for VVIP cells and were denied. They also requested for medical treatment, but again, they were denied. They also applied for bail almost immediately, but they were not granted bail immediately. So 3 weeks later, on 17th October 2014, the Supreme Court finally granted them 2 months bail and suspended their sentence. So later on in December 2014, their bail would be extended by another 4 months, but it came with the stipulation that the appeal should take place in the Karnataka High Court.
Okay.
And the Supreme Court also said that the proceeding should be carried out as soon as possible and on a day-to-day basis. And they got a special bench assigned to them for this case by the Karnataka High Court as well.
On 18th October 2014, Jayalalitha returned to Chennai after 21 days in jail. Despite the heavy rain that week, pretty much the entirety of the Athimuka party was assembled outside her home in Poise Garden, just awaiting her arrival. A party worker was quoted as saying, "Amma brings rain to this city." Now, remember how the original case took like 18 years to decide? Well, the appeal took 8 months. Yeah. On 11th May 2015, after just a few months of hearings and deliberation, the Karnataka High Court set aside the order of the special court. So, in the 900-odd page judgment, Justice Kumaraswamy said that the prosecution failed to prove any conspiracy because they did the maths wrong.
Oh God, maths, ah.
Yes, correct. After recalculating the income earned by the accused between 1991 and 1996, the court came to the conclusion that the additional assets that they possessed only exceeded their known income by about 8.12 percentage. About 600 pages of this judgment is just the court standing over your shoulder like you're a maths teacher from 4th standard and telling you, just give up hope of having any career. You can't even do long division.
Oh God, dude, that brought back some harmful memories. Because you know what? At least your math teacher didn't ask you to just quit school. I have a math teacher who told me, just start prepping for something more useful like hotel management.
What?
Yeah, and you know what? To my 12th grade math teacher, I just want to say, first of all, don't demean any profession, especially those that work like long, difficult hours in the freaking service sector. That's not easy at all. Second, don't be shitty to children, man. They're still trying to figure out what they want to do. Yeah.
But also, I want to add some outrage here. Hotel management needs maths. It was one of my, I was working in, doing PR for a hotel. And it's nuts. Like, I would have conversations with all of the managers. Everything is budgets and comping and sales tax and percentage. And everyone's doing it like mental maths. And I'm just standing there like one bake. And it's not only that you have to look great and be presentable and be nice and sweet and fix every customer's problems 2 hours before they face it. You also have to be some child prodigy who's won every mathletes competition in your school. Okay. So just tell your maths teacher to shut up. In any case, the Karnataka High Court cited a judgment by the Supreme Court in which it said that if the disproportionate assets were less than 10% of the known income, then the accused must be acquitted. First of all, your teacher can suck it. The prosecution fought this, by the way. When the hearings were happening, the prosecution said, we have literally no idea where all this new income came from to justify the slight rise in assets. To which the court said, bro, you do your job. You can't expect the accused to hold receipts for every single thing that they own. It's the prosecution's job to find all these sources of income. Actually, to specifically quote the High Court, it said, why should one keep them from the beginning of his career till his superannuation, anticipating to be required in a court of law?
You know what? This is particularly funny to me because if I use this excuse with the income tax department when I file my returns, if I said, you should know how much money I make, I can't tell you. If I said that to the income tax department, they would just take my butt and hand it right back to me.
So they were acquitted. Jayalalitha had issued a statement saying truth and justice has prevailed, and she thanked God and the people of Tamil Nadu. Sources in the election commission were quick to point out that clearly that this acquittal meant Jayalalitha's disqualification from her MLA seat and chief minister no longer stands. So Chief Minister Jayalalitha was back in power, back in action, and we cannot wait to see what she is up to next.
Well, we'll see. Let's take a little break here. When we come back, where does she go from here?
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam Gupta is joined by Gopal Agrawal, Senior Fund Manager, HDFC AMC Limited. They talk about the latest new fund offer, the HDFC Multi-Cap Fund. On Probation Se Promotion Tak, host Abhinav talks about leadership and how it can be nurtured. On Fin Talks at Bob World, Akhil is in conversation with Mukesh Kaldra. Mukesh is the founder and CEO of ET Money, and they discuss how Indians invest. Join the Simplified Trio as they break down complex causes, effects, politics, and cricketing mishaps caused by the intense air pollution in Delhi. Yeah, you heard that right, cricketing mishaps. And on Edges and Sledges, Ashwin and DJ talk about the first test match between India and New Zealand and the 2022 IPL retentions. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. And finally, do remember that many of our shows are available on YouTube. You can check that out by going to our website, ivmpodcast.com/YouTube, where we have a list of all of our various YouTube channels. Finally, we'd like to thank the sponsors on the network this week: Cred, Bank of Baroda, HDFC Mutual Fund, CoinSwitch, Kuber, Intel, and Oxfam India. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back, everyone. So last we left Jayalalitha, she had just been reinstated as the Chief Minister of the state. This was May 2015. In May 2016, Fresh elections were held and her party was successful again. So Jayalalitha became the first chief minister of Tamil Nadu to hold the position 2 consecutive times after MGR. And this was a huge occasion. It was celebrated all over Tamil Nadu. And within the first 6 months of resuming power, Jayalalitha did so much for the people of Tamil Nadu. For one, about 1.7 million farmers' crop loans were written off entirely. She built a 1,000 megavolt nuclear power plant in Kudankulam. She gave electricity benefits to millions of low-income households, including free power up to 100 units. And there was medical insurance coverage and pensions. They were raised almost across the board for millions of government employees. And the party clearly had a mission, right?
Yeah.
They wanted to put the nastiness of these court cases behind them as soon as possible. But in September 2016, Chief Minister Jayalalitha fell seriously ill. So we don't have too many details. They haven't been released yet, really, about her illness. But we do know that she was hospitalized for almost 3 months. After prolonged illness, she passed away on 5th December 2016. Her official cause of death is cardiac arrest. Her last public appearance had been in September 2016, and this is when she inaugurated 2 new Chennai metro railway lines. But she did this over video conference. So reactions to her death were kind of all over the place. Of course, there were millions and millions that mourned her death, not just in the state, but sort of across the world. Even more came to see her body as it was laid for viewing in Rajaji Hall in Chennai. The state also observed a 7-day mourning period, and the central government declared a 1-day national mourning. That's a really big deal, that recognition, you know. On the other hand, there are also rumors that her death was suspect in some way, and because of this, there was a probe into her death and the circumstances surrounding it. So Justice A. Arumugaswamy, he was appointed as the head of the commission to look into it, but no report has come out till date. The 68-year-old chief minister was finally laid to rest at Medina Beach near the MGR Memorial. Today, the spot is known as the Purachi Talevi Amma Dr. J. Jayalalitha Memorial. There's a giant white phoenix-like structure that's dedicated to her. It's actually quite beautiful. You guys should check it out if you are in Chennai.
Also, let's please remember something else. The case wasn't over, guys.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. This story does not end with the death of the former Chief Minister Jayalalitha. Because even before that happened, the state of Karnataka filed an appeal before the Supreme Court of India. So even if she wasn't around, Sasikala was definitely still on the hook. In February 2017, the Supreme Court convicted Sasikala in the case. A bench of 2 judges set aside the judgment of the Karnataka High Court and upheld the decision of the Special Court. Remember that one from 2014? That's
Yes.
the one.
Feels like a forever ago.
Yep. The Supreme Court agreed with the findings of the Special Court. Sasikala and her aides were convicted for criminal conspiracy. Further, since Jayalalitha had passed, the case against her was dismissed entirely. I mean, what else could they have done?
Yeah, fair. Also, by the way, this judgment is about 550 pages long.
Yeah.
And large parts of it is just the Supreme Court computing the total income earned by Jayalalitha and like the value of the assets that she had. Okay. So just table after table, just computations, all 3 of these judgments. It was really tough for me to get through it because maths is just not my strong suit. It was really, but these tables were really meticulous. Okay. So whichever intern had to put out the first draft of that judgment together, well done, bro. You deserve a nice chilled beer brought to you every single day till you die. Thank you for your service to this country.
Meanwhile, Sasikala had to surrender immediately for her remaining jail term. Her conviction meant that she was barred from contesting in any elections for a period of 10 years from the conviction. If she ever wanted to become Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, well, that dream was shattered with the verdict. She reported to the Bangalore Parapana Agrahara Central Jail, and that's where she stayed from 2017 to 2021.
Yeah, in an interview to The Week in July 2021, Sasikala said that the 4 years that she spent in prison were apparently the most difficult sort of phase of her life. So the last year, she said, was particularly lonely because of fewer visits because of the pandemic. There were a bunch of restrictions once COVID had set in, especially in jails. So her appeal for remission was also rejected. She wouldn't get any sort of medical exemption as well. And just before her release from jail was approved, she caught COVID-19 and she was moved to a hospital in Bangalore. Finally, on 8th February 2021, she was cleared for release from the Bangalore jail. After this, though, she took this long 23-hour journey to Chennai, okay, which usually takes 6 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 if you take the Shatabdi, okay.
Yes.
So she stopped at multiple temples and sort of mini rallies on her way from Bangalore to Chennai. And political pundits speculate that this was her way of saying that she was back to serving the people. And she wanted that fact to be out there for people to know that she was back, you know. But in March 2021, Sasikala announced her decision to quit politics, okay. And everybody was like, okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
But in October 2021, she visited Jayalalitha's memorial. And she went on this week-long tour of the state, like almost like she was conducting a series of rallies. So everyone's like, what is going on? It's just really confusing, okay? Even her own party is like, I don't know. Nobody asked us. But just remember, even if she wants to, Sasikala is still disqualified from running for an MLA position. She can't do that. So I don't know where she's going to go with this, okay? So, but keep an eye out for it because I definitely will. So this is where the story ends. Well, not ends. This is all we have so far.
Before we get into the moral of the day that we have learned from this story, let's talk about something else. Representation of Jayalalitha in fictional media. Because my God, there is so much. So Jalalita was a guest on the Simi Garewal talk show, Rendezvous with Simi Garewal in 1999. On the show, Simi had asked her to name an actor that she thought would be best suited to play her on the big screen. And she said, I think Aishwarya Rai would be very suitable to play me in my younger days. But then to play me as I am now, or I'm likely to be in the future, I think it would be a little difficult. Which is so weird because Aishwarya Rai did play a sort of version of Jayalalitha in the Tamil movie Iruvar, which was released in 97, which is like 2 years before her interview with Simi Garewal.
Yeah.
I don't know why she didn't acknowledge that. Anyway, in any case, we also think Aishwarya Rai would have made a great Jalalita.
Agreed.
Yeah. You know who would not make a good Jalalita?
Let me guess. Is this a topical question?
Yes.
Are you talking about Kangana Ranaut?
It is Kangana Ranaut. She starred as Jalalita with her name and everything in the 2021 movie Talevi.
Yeah, so I have watched the movie. And first off, they don't use the name Purishita Levi, okay? Which is just, that is her title.
Yeah.
Just call her that. Nobody called her Talevi. In fact, they called her Amma all the time. So just, the movie was not really about Jayalalitha, I felt. I felt like it was a movie about, like it was just the stuff that was Jayalalitha's relationship with MGR. There's no Sasikala, of course, because I guess, there isn't. It's basically a movie about things that happened to Jayalalitha. It doesn't feel like she really asserts much agency. It's not about what Jayalalitha did. And that's kind of frustrating, okay? So there are also parts where she just says a one-liner and she looks like this damn hero and she turns around and walks away, okay? And all that's missing is an explosion behind her. And like, it's really frustrating because it makes it look like she's this weird like deity of sorts, which she is. But then now you had a chance to turn her into someone who was more human than that and you didn't do it. And also the movie just sort of ends right after she becomes chief minister. But bro, as we know, today, her story gets interesting after she becomes chief minister. You know, all the scandals, the revenge plots, all the drama, everything is after 1991. So it's really sad that they didn't cover any of that stuff. And that's genuinely pissing off for me. Anyway, have you watched it?
Are you kidding? I would not watch that movie of all of the movies that we have spoken about so far. I think the only thing that I would watch, and I have watched, is that 1.5 hour long Simi interview. That is movie enough for me.
It is quite long. But it's a beautiful watch. I think anyone who's more interested in her should really go check this out after her.
The Simi Garewal interview, right?
Yep. That's right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I'm talking about the Simi Garewal interview.
Just checking.
Not the Kangana Ranaut movie, please.
Yes, well. But I do have to say, like, I mean, the balls on Kangana. Just you know, when asked about her research, she quoted this same Simi Garewal interview that Jayalalitha gave. And she said in a tweet, Simi Garewal tapped into the real essence of a celebrity, a complete sketch of the subject. Rendezvous with Jayama has helped me a lot in my research. Well, then have some shame. Jayalalitha herself in her interview was like, Aishwarya Rai maybe. So the ideal way forward is don't play Jayalalitha, no? Just so much nonsense.
I didn't even think of it that way. That makes so much sense. Actually, I would bet she hasn't watched it. Ooh,
Ugh.
oh no. Okay, but you know what was a good piece of media that was based on Jayalalitha? Not a lot of people have heard of this, but there's this bilingual TV show. It's called Queen.
Oh, yeah.
And it stars my true queen of South Indian cinema, which is Ramya Krishnan.
Oh, man, I love Ramya Krishnan.
Yeah, man, she's just, she's so stunning.
Yeah.
She's all of the things. So this TV show is based off of a book by Anita Sivakumaran. The main character, her name is Shakti. So she's based off of Jalalita, but they're not outrightly using their names.
Correct.
The story actually uses Simi Garewal's interview as a backdrop of sorts to run through Jayalalita's life. What I particularly liked about this show is it gave it a lot of time. So it's like this very slow burn show, you know. It takes us through her childhood, her relationship with her mother, like her school days, how she entered films, even her relationship with like MGR across the years, and finally how she joined politics. So, I mean, for now, the show ends with MGR's funeral, but I'm guessing we'll see a season 3 and more of her life pretty soon.
Oh.
So I thought it was a really, really good show. Talevi was really ambitious, but it sort of fell prey to the usual issues that biopics have, which is that there just wasn't enough time.
Yeah.
But Queen
Okay.
gives Jayalalitha the time it deserves, like a lot of time. Okay. And she deserves that time because her story is just what? It's nuts. Her story is nuts, dude.
Yeah, I know. I agree completely.
Well, now that we've covered that, let's get back to real life. So there's a lot to be said about, you know, how often we idolize the people that we sort of feel represent us. For the two of us, I mean, me and Nisha, Jayalalitha really symbolizes this ridiculously strong female voice, you know, that rose in the middle of male-dominated Dravidian politics. For people like me and Nisha, we consider the late Chief Minister Jayalalitha a force to be reckoned with. Like, she was eloquent, she was this graceful statesman. She was a woman who brushed past all odds to make this work for her, you know?
Yeah.
And that honestly makes it really hard for us to accept her few faults in any way at all.
So, where do we leave with former Chief Minister Jayalalitha herself? Let me read her quote from 1984. I have come here as the representative of the weaker sections of our society, the toiling masses, the crores of humble workers, farmers, poor agricultural laborers, and women, to give oral manifestation to their feelings, aspirations, and legitimate desires and make them known to the rest of the country.
Wow.
Yeah. So despite this case, she was a force for the better in Tamil Nadu. She was basically a cult of personality, branding herself as Amma. So all of her followers would look up to her as like a mother who nurtured the state, and they would treat her with a sense of reverence. Her party and the opposition politicized just about everything in the state, including changing the bus numbers in particular routes to JJ.
Oh.
But she was also the one who turned the new secretariat building into a high-class multi-speciality hospital.
That's right.
So were her welfare schemes so elaborate and far-reaching that it changed the way that Tamil people received basic necessities and benefits? Yes. Were her efforts in children and women's education important enough that she ended up keeping hundreds of thousands of kids in schools and colleges instead of having them drop out? Yes. Did she implement a series of measures that allowed young mothers to care for their newborns? Hell yes. Yes to all of the above. And she was a pioneer, and we must recognize her for this.
Yep.
So when it comes to our Purechi Talevi, I think two things are true. One, she was certainly one of a kind. She was a woman who took a stand where she was not invited, and she effectively paved the way for many others to follow.
Yep.
In a way that really moved the people of Tamil Nadu. And two, in most cases, she was almost exactly like the people she claimed to be better than.
That is very well said. Also, since we're not actually doing a song for this episode, we thought it would be, you know, a good idea to share like a fun anecdote that we recently heard about Tamil politics. We found this to be super cool. Nisha, do you want to tell them?
Yeah. So Tamil Nadu politics and the film industry kind of go hand in hand. Especially in the state, we have many, many politicians that have come from like a film background. So this story invokes another person who also has a cult personality similar to our former Chief Minister Jalalita, and that is superstar Rajinikanth.
Hey.
So I can't not say superstar before Rajinikanth.
It's not, it turns up. You can't, I have to even sing the hey. Hey, when it happens, that happens just before the movie starts. It's just the whole bullet thing. It's really cool, man.
So now Rajinikanth obviously has like a huge mob following, and he has been asked many, many times to join politics, and he's always been like, nah.
That is exactly the tone in which Rajinikanth said that.
But he was very vocal about how he did not want to support our Purechi Talavi. And specifically, there was one particular election where he said, like, he was very vocal about it. Unfortunately, she did lose very heavily that year. It's funny because much later, when he was considering forming his own party, he was also faced with like some sort of resistance in the state, mostly because it seemed like a one-man party. There was no one else with him, right? But it just turns out that he just couldn't gather the masses like he used to. And later in 2020, he also announced that he wasn't going to enter into politics. So to that, I say, pride goeth before a fall.
That brings us to the end of this episode. Brings us to the end of this two-parter. It's been a really, really long ride, and I'm so tired. I want a really long nap.
But before you go into the nap, let's just talk about, all of our sources, because we've spent a lot of time on it and we don't want to be held accountable.
That's
Everything
true.
is there on our blog. Please go and check it out. Do check out all of the interviews. It's actually quite fun to see the way Jalalita speaks. It's so eloquent. There's no ers and ums. Maybe it's prepped. Maybe it's on the fly. I don't know, but it's nice to listen to it.
That's true. In our last episode, we had mentioned how if you guys have any stories that you would like to share with us, please do that, because we would like to share your stories in one of our episodes, especially because, the kind of stuff that you guys tell us, it sort of veers us to a place where we're like, oh, damn, can we cover this in one of our podcasts? So we're very excited to do that. Please write to us. My Instagram handle is at ragi.dose and Nisha.
And you can catch me at just.nishful.thinking. Whoever sends us stories, and like if we do shout outs, if you're in India, you'll also get goodies from IVM. So make sure you write into us. And that pretty much brings us to the end of our double episode. We'll see you on the next week on Misconduct.
See you guys.
Namaste, this is Cyrus Brocha. I am part of the government cancel culture program to remove rubbish off all the different streams available. So what we have is all the collected rubbish we put together on our show. It's called Cyrus Says. It's on IVM podcast. You have to watch it and listen to it. It's on our app. It's on our website. It's on the YouTube channel. It's on Facebook. There are many different ways. Don't bother me and ask me how. You have to find out. We talk to different personalities. Many of them are known. Some are just people we meet downstairs and invite them up for chai. But the point is, it's fun and it's very therapeutic. So please join in and listen to Cyrus Says.
Remember the days when our granny used to narrate once upon a time stories? Let's bring back the good old days of moral stories with Storytime Tamil. Hi, I am Ravishankar Balachandran, host of Storytime Tamil podcast. I would like you to entertain and educate your children with stories from Storytime Tamil. Tune in to the new episode sharp at 7 p.m. every day on IVM website, IVM podcast app, YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcast from.